Hey guys, welcome to Life Perplexed Part 2. So, last night we left off where today's day and age, and welcome to my series of what brought us to today. What the relationship, my custody fight, who I am today is based on big part of everything that I went through. So, I'm sharing my story. One, to help myself, two, to help my son, and if I can help somebody else throughout this series, or as for someone to understand that it's not them with all these things happening to them, then my job is done. So, let me start with 2008. I met Brad in 2006. I thought, like I said yesterday, he was the love of my life. He was everything I was looking for and then some. He was kind. He was good-hearted. He was beautiful. We thought the same. He was the love of my life. I thought, I am going to spend the rest of my life with this man. Granted, some of our relationship was built on drugs. We had gotten into ecstasy together in the very early stages of our relationship. And I can't say that it didn't hurt us, but it definitely helped us build this passion bond. Our dealer got busted around 2007, and that was the end. We started getting back into cocaine, which I really didn't want to do because Dayton was born the end of 2007. The beginning of 2007, I'll never forget, I took an Oxycontin, and I was more than sick. I didn't know why I was so sick. Turns out next day I was pregnant. That's why I was so sick. So that was the last time I did drugs for a long time. Now, Brad was in a halfway house at this point due to failing a drug test. So he was on parole for doing 9 years in prison for trafficking cocaine. So as you can see, this wasn't a healthy relationship to begin with. And it never got any healthier, to be honest with you. But it just kind of had highs and lows. So we had moved into a new house that I swear there was a ghost in the basement. And at some point around February of 2007, I had gotten pregnant. And Dayton was born November of 2007. Brad got out of the halfway house, I think around June. And a lot of creepy things were happening in the house. It was very weird, but that's a whole nother story. So after Brad got out of the halfway house, we stayed in the house for a little while, and I started seeing Brad change. I don't know if he was back on drugs. I don't know what he was, but all of a sudden with me being pregnant, even though he was raising the twins as his own, with me being pregnant, he just seemed different. And being in the house, he seemed different. And, when you watch a lot of ghost stories, it changes people. But I started noticing he was doing drugs again. And he was back to shooting coke and, really bad shit. So I wanted to move. I wanted out of this house. I felt like this house was putting a really big strain on our relationship. I felt like this house was putting a really big strain on us. Maybe it was the ghost. I don't know what it was. But Brad started traveling for work again. And that's when Phoenix saw a ghost in this house while I was packing. Ghost was friendly to him, but I knew that getting out of there was going to be the right move. Could it have been this house was our downfall? It's possible. Nobody knows. But we found a really nice house and moved in. Dayton wasn't born yet, or Dayton was born. I don't remember, but we moved and we had this really nice house in Eldridge. And I'll never forget the feeling of relief when we finally moved. So everything was fine. He was traveling back and forth. But I started noticing that he wasn't coming home as much. He wasn't calling me 30, 40 times a day, which for anyone that's ever been with a controlling person, you don't see it in the beginning. You always think that, hey, he calls me 50 times a day because he loves me. He calls me 50 times a day because he's interested in my life. Now, I was a housewife. I was going to school because I hated being a housewife. So in 2006 is when I started going for my degree, or 2007, I started going for my degree. And, if I was going to be a stay-at-home mom, I was going to make it worthwhile by, getting my degree. finishing my degree, I should say. So I was going to be a guidance counselor at a school or something with school. So I was on the same schedule with the school. I thought about doing psychology, and I was like, you know what? Let me get my degree in psychology. My dad had just been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and I was like, you know what? Let him be proud of me. Let him see that I finally finished my degree. Finally, I'm doing something with my life. The past is behind me. I'm a mom now. I have 3 kids. And sure enough, that was the plan. So I noticed around Christmas of 2007, he started changing a lot. And I just assumed he was on drugs. I never thought it was, because he was cheating. Around February of 2008, a girlfriend of mine had asked me to come to New York for the summer to help her with her kids. Because she was starting a new job, she was in nursing school, she needed a nanny. She would rather have had a friend come in and, help watch her kids. How I handled 5 kids with 3 of them being under the age of, with 3 of them being under the age of 2 and the other 2 being 1 year older. I don't know how I handled it all by myself, but I did. Amazingly. So I forgot what happened, but Brad started really disappearing. And, being that I was so far away, I couldn't just, find out what was going on. My head started getting fucked up. I'm like, all right, I got to get back home. So around June, I think it was June or July, I told her, Jen, I got to cut this trip. I got to get back home. I can't handle not knowing where he is or what he's doing. So she said, I totally understand. So I told him, hey, I'm coming back home, pick us up from the airport. And he was kind of taken back, like, why am I coming back home? So I said to him, I want to come back home. I miss you. I miss home. And the one thing I asked him before he left was, please do not let me come home and not find a home there. I wouldn't do that, yada, yada, yada. So I said, fine. So I go home. He picks me up at the airport, and you could cut ice. It was horrible. I mean, he was so cold. He was cold to the kids. He was cold to me. And I remember we get in the car, and I remember tapping my feet, and I said to him, I don't have a home anymore, do I? And he said, well, no, I didn't think you were coming back. So that started this, it's the only fucking thing I asked is make sure that I have a home to come home to. And I remember fighting with him in the car, and I stopped to get cigarettes, and I was like, hey, can you get me a pack? He's like, where's your money? Blah, blah, blah. And he was being such a dick. So we get back to the house. All my shit is in the garage, like all of it. I was livid. I was like, how could you do this to me? And I was just throwing things at him, and it was bad. Cops ended up getting called. I don't remember if I called, the neighbor called, we both called. I don't know, but it got bad. Cops had him outside. Cops made him leave and go to his friend's house. He called me like 50 times that day. And I remember thinking, how could you do this to me? Now, mind you, I still have 3 really young kids to take care of. And my emotions were flying. I called his sister, please come over. Like, I need help with these kids. I can't do this right now. So she came over, and she was like, are you okay? I said, no, I'm not. I started bringing stuff out of the garage. He's calling me 100 times. He's not allowed back at the house, according to the cops. He comes anyway. And his sister leaves, and I said, how could you do this to me? How could you do this to our kids? So I found out later on that there was this girl involved. Like, duh, I should have known that. And I didn't know who this girl was. And what I was told was the girl's gone. She's no longer in her life. She's gone. And I found out he had this girl at the house, and she was sleeping in my bed. And this transpired another cop call. This time, I think it was from the neighbors that called the cops because we were yelling so loud and I was throwing shit outside, and it was bad. And we lived in a very nice neighborhood. And, before I met Brad, I was little princess. Like, I did nothing. Everything was done for me. And then once I met Brad, he taught me how to be self-sufficient. And he taught me how to do things on my own and how to handle things on my own and how to fix things and, not be a little princess, but actually understand what it means to, be self-sufficient and be able to fix a vacuum or not have to depend on anybody to fix shit. And, just stand on my own. And I did. So I remember, I want to say about 3 days after this pig blowout, I started bringing stuff back in the garage, from the garage into the bedroom. And I really wanted to make it work. He was doing the right thing. And okay, he got rid of this girl. It is what it is. Let me just tell you, ladies, if a guy tells you they get rid of the girl, they most likely didn't. If a guy is cheating and things happen, most likely they're still cheating. I learned this the hard way. I've never been cheated on like that, especially as an adult with children. I was cheated on as a kid. I've done my fair of cheating. But trust me when I tell you, if they tell you that the woman is gone, most likely they're not. So one day, I want to say a couple of days after that, his best friend had called and said, "Hey, Brad, I need you to come over here, blah, blah, blah." So Brad said, "All right, honey, I'll be right back." It was about a half hour away. I decided to follow him. Something about this didn't sit right with me. I decided to pop the kids in the car and follow him and find out where he was. So he goes to the best friend's house. He goes in. I'm sitting down, a couple cars back. And Sage and Phoenix and Dayton were all sound asleep in the car. And I remember him coming out. And some girl gave him a kiss. And now I'm livid. I am fucking livid. Like, I can't take anymore. I turn around. I go back to the house. Now, I don't know why my instincts didn't just want to throw something at him on the spot. But I go back to the house and I say nothing. He comes back home. He's like, "Hey, honey, what's going on? Blah, blah, blah." And I try to control my emotions. It lasted about 5 seconds. And I went haywire. I was like, "How fucking could you? I thought you were done with her." So on and so forth. But you know what? I forgot the biggest part of this. I missed the biggest part. He then says to me that, that wasn't who she was. That was somebody else. That was Dave's cousin or whatever. I forgot what it was. Like, it was something stupid. And I was like, "Oh, you're kissing Dave's cousin?" He's like, trying to gaslight me. "I didn't make out with her. Brad, I watched you." "No, you didn't. What you saw, you didn't really see." Like, totally gaslighting me. And I was like, "Whatever, Brad." About 2 days later, I want to say 2 days later, stupid me forgives him again. And then I started questioning myself. Did I really see what I think I saw? He totally convinced me that it's not what I saw. About 2 or 3 days later, I get a phone call from... He left his phone at home. He was working and he left his phone at home. And, him being his phone at home was really no big deal. I remember he called me from his friend's home and from his friend's phone and said to me, "Hey, do me a favor. Can you bring my phone up to work?" So I was like, "Yeah, when I get a chance, I'm moving stuff back into the bedroom." "All right, hon, love you too." About, I want to say an hour after that, there's a text message that comes through on his phone. "Hey, good morning, honey. I just want to say that I love you." Wow. Called the number back. I said, "Who the fuck is this?" She's like, "Who the fuck is this?" I'm like, "This is his wife. Who the fuck are you?" And she was like, "You ain't his wife. You're just his baby mama." Oh, I was livid. And I packed the kids in the car. I go up to his work and I threw his phone at him. I then had my phone and I smashed it. Like, I had my other phone that my dad paid for, but then I had Brad's phone that I smashed into 1,000 pieces. And I remember his best friend, this guy Joe, had said, "Well, Brad, looks like she knows." Damn fucking right I know. How could you? You fucking lowlife piece of shit. I went ballistic. So after going ballistic, the kids are crying, like, "Mommy, stop." And I'm hitting him and I'm freaking out. And he's holding my hands. He's like, "It never meant to be like this." I was like, "How could you do this to me? How could you cheat on your own kids? This is your kids, Brad. This is your family. what the fuck did we ever do to you to cause this? I mean, it was ugly. And he goes over to the car, and Dayton's like, Daddy, Daddy. And he was like, I love you, bud. I was like, you don't love him. You don't fucking cheat on kids that you love. I'm like, you didn't just cheat on me, Brad. You fucking cheated on your own kid. And I said, you just cheated your family out of a father. You just cheated your own family. Buka, shut up. You just cheated your own kids out of a father, out of a life. We had a life together, Brad. It was bad. Hang on. It was bad. And, I don't know. And I'm just like, who does that? Who does that to innocent kids? What the fuck did they do? You want to fight with me? Fight with me. But how dare you cheat on our family? So I went back to the house. He had no phone at this point. I went back to the house. He was at the house already. He's trying to stop me from breaking everything. He thought I was going to take a bat to everything he ever worked for. And I wasn't going to. I mean, I thought about it, obviously, but I wasn't going to. So we then go to, I want to say about a week later, I told him I'm moving out. I'm getting my own place. Now, mind you, I was a housewife. I had no job. I was still going to school, but I had no job. During this time that we were together, I had found his adopted daughter. And why this comes into play is because he threw it in my face later. Like, how dare I look up his daughter? Well, most people would be happy that you found your adopted daughter. But I called my dad and my mom. I said, I need help. I was like, I got to get out of here. Brad's cheating. You know, caught him red-handed. So my dad, being my dad's little princess, I said, my car is his. Everything I own is his. My dad used this, remember guys, cash for clunkers. My dad got me a brand new car right off the lot, paid cash for it, got me an apartment. I got a job. You know, the one thing I said that I would never go back, and I would get a job and I would be self-sufficient, and all this while going to school. So I made the agreement with my dad, had a brand new 2010 Kia Soul, which I still have today. And I wanted to take care of myself. And this was in 2009. As you know, cars always are a year ahead. So this was about September of 2009 or August. And then September, I moved out. I got my own place. And I thought this was, a new beginning. Brad helped me move everything. He could not understand why I was doing this to him, why I was moving out. He agreed to, get rid of the girl, but this was something I needed to do for me and the kids. Got a really nice 3-bedroom townhouse, not far from where we were. Got daycare, got all my shit in order, got a really good job at AT&T. And I, moved up to a sales manager within a couple of months. I was making really good money. And everything was okay. And then Brad started wheeling his way back into my life. And he started just coming around again, wanted to see his kids, knowing how hard it was driving the kids to daycare in the middle of the winter. He decided that he was going to be a great dad and get me a nanny. And we interviewed a couple of nannies, and he thought, that he found a nanny that he really liked. Hold on. Go. He found a nanny that he really liked, and I agreed. So now my life is easier. Now my kids don't have to go anywhere. The middle of the winter, all I had to do was go to work and back. Many times I'd come home from work and he'd be there sitting with the nanny. And no, he wasn't sleeping with the nanny. The nanny was older. And he, I would come home, he'd be there, or sometimes the kids wouldn't be there. The nanny would be like, Brad took the kids to the circus, or Brad took the kids here, or Brad took the kids there. And I really thought he was starting to change. And I really thought that, now that I'm self-sufficient, and I started thinking that this was all a positive thing, because I was standing on my own and I didn't need him. And, he always used to throw in my face how I need to stand on my own and stuff. God, these fucking dogs, go! Ugh. And how I need to stand on my own and stuff. This is where I need editing. How I need to stand on my own and stuff. And I really thought this was all a good thing. Lo and behold, these were the worst decisions I could have ever made in my entire life. Trusting him was my biggest mistake. So I'm going to end right here. I'm going to end with, he was trying to be the perfect man to the nanny, and trying to make it out like everything was perfect. And he would come, back and forth. And then I started going to see him. He was traveling for work. I started to go see him where he was working with the kids on weekends. And that's where I'm going to leave this part. And I will see you guys for part 3, either later or tomorrow. And that's it. So I'll see you guys later. Have a wonderful night. And peace out.